this video, we're going to look at creating assets and shots in NIM and the associated information with those items. To start, we can go into our development section of a job and click on Assets. Here, to manually create a new asset, we can click on Add Assets, and I can add an asset name. Here we'll add boat, and we'll add car, and we'll choose to create those assets. You can create multiple assets at a time by separating them with a comma. You can also import assets from a CSV. We'll look at this later when importing shots. Now that we have our asset, we can click on our asset information, and we can see we have places to store elements, files, review items, notes, and there's also default information along with each asset. In this case, I can associate a security group with this asset. Now, security groups limit which users have access to objects in NIM. Users that are not members of the security group attached to an object do not have direct access to that object in NIM. Even if a user was a member of the crew, but not a member of the security group attached to the asset, they would not have access to this asset. In this case, we'll just add security group 1. We can also set a default status of not started, and we can enter a description. These fields below are custom fields that have been created and applied to all assets in NIM. In this case, we have a category, and we created a dropdown where we can choose characters, environments, or props. I'm going to list this one as a prop, and then I'm going to hit save. If I wish to add an image to this asset, I can click on the select button, or I can drag and drop an image in the bar. Now in the view, we see our icon for the boat, as well as its current status and the description for that item. As we populate this asset with elements, files, reviews, and notes, they will be accessible by clicking on the corresponding buttons to load each individual section. To add a new note to our asset, I can click on the area to the right, which loads our asset notes, and I can say, let's build this boat. The latest note is always visible from the list. When working with notes, I have the option to mark it as completed. I can reply to a note, say let's do it, as well as if I own the note, I could edit the original note, as well as delete the note in the note chain. To adjust the status of an asset, I can click on my Asset Status button, and I can grab a status and drag and drop it over. Dropping onto the asset row will automatically adjust that asset status. Now let's create a show and create some shots. So I'm going to go into my production menu, in the config, and under the show section, I'm going to create episode 1. I'll set the total running time to 1 minute, and I will add a previous section. Adding a previous section is a great space when you don't have a locked edit yet, but you need a working space to create shots. This allows you to work outside of your main sequence without compromising any shot names or numbers. I'm going to hit OK to add that, and let's add a second one as well. We'll call this EPO2. I'll set it to the same running time, no previs this time, and I'll click Save. Now let's also bring this job online. I can go over to my Projects tab, click on Servers, and I can add the file server that I want to include on the job. I can actually include multiple servers if I'm working across multiple locations. Next, I'll choose the project structure. In this case, I'm going to choose my default NIM project structure. I have the option to modify the project folder, and I'm going to bring the job online. Here in the output, you'll see that all the folders for the job have been created, and my 2 shows have been created. Now, shows are essentially just a way to group shots, and you can group them however you like. That could be per deliverable, it could be per episode, it could be sequences. It's really up to you. It's just a grouping mechanism to provide better organization across your job. So similar to creating an asset, I'm going to click the plus button inside my sequence view. And here I'm going to use my sequence creator. In this case, I'm going to use a prefix of SH, and I'll choose a number sequence from 1 to 3, 5 to 7, and 9. I'll add an offset of 10. I won't include a suffix. I'll leave the separator, and I'll leave a padding of 3. And now I can click Add Shots. Here we can see our shots have been created, and if I choose the View Details option, I can see all the system folders that have been made based off of my project structure information. We'll cover creating project structures in a separate video. Now, similar to working with assets, I can click on a shot to load the shot details. Shots come with a number of default fields, which you can choose to use, or you can hide them at the admin level. Then you can always add your own custom fields as needed to include whatever additional information you require. We can begin to drag statuses over onto our shots But also if we go into our grid view, we can multi-select shots, choose our status, and drag and drop them over to apply them all at once. You can also multi-select and edit shots together as needed. In this case, I'm going to set all of my frames per second to 24. Now, if we want to update the icon for each of these individual shots, we could drag a single one over per shot as needed, but because we brought this job online and NIM understands where our plates folder is for our project structure, we can have NIM look through the project structure, find the plates, and create icons for them automatically. Here, we'll click on the button to generate shot icons. We'll tell it to look on our local storage one, and we're going to update all missing icons and click Generate Icons. Now NIM has gone through the project structure and created icons for each of our individual shots. In addition to our grid view and our list view, we also have a board view. Board views also allow us to multi-select across shots, where we can either edit that information or I can drag and drop status over and edit those all together as a single unit. Now let's look at a project in progress that actually has more information on each of our individual shots. Here I can see my general shot information, and clicking on the left here under my shot, I have my elements for my shot. So these can be any items required to create the shot or asset as needed. Typically when logging a render against a shot, any output of that render will be logged as an element on the shot. However, you can define your own element types. Other items that would be included as elements would be any exports from any of our timeline connectors. Here we have our files, and clicking on the base names shows the set of associated versions with each set of base names. These files will be logged automatically when using NIM connectors to save files to an asset or a shot. You can also manually add files or use the API if needed. We also have per asset and shot review, which includes all of our standard review tools that we can actually work on and whiteboard directly on our review items, as well as our individual shot notes. Now looking at tasks that have been assigned to shots, we can filter the view based on task assignments. We have the option to filter by all shots, my shots, which would include any shots that I have a task assigned to me on, or I can even limit this just down to my tasks to simplify the view. Now let's look at importing from a CSV. If I click the plus button, this time I can choose the Import tab. Here I'm going to drag and drop a CSV file over that is essentially a shot list with some basic information about all the shots. On the left, we can see the information for each row that NIM found in the CSV file, and then we can choose which field to associate that with. In this case, I'll set this item as the name. This will be my frame count. This will be my lens information, my description, as well as my VFX notes. Now, NIM found some data on these other columns in the CSV file, but we're not going to select a matching item for those, so we won't import them. Now, if I want to view any other rows inside the CSV file, I can choose a different row to look at to confirm my data matches what I want to import. At this point in time, I can click on Import 11 Shots, and then we'll go ahead and create the folders for those and bring over my information. Here we can see all of our shot names. The description was automatically brought in, as well as my VFX notes, my frames, and my lens information. And that is a brief overview of working with assets and shots in NIM. For more detailed information, please refer to the NIM documentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at support@nim-labs.com. Thank you.